I want to talk to you about my friend Charlie Crawford. He's a 10-time NFR qualifier.
Charlie Crawford, time to just shake it out and win. Got it on him fast, set
there
up.
We are.
Here's a dead
nice
money
run.
lead. You betcha 3-8.
That's an absolute perfect run. Timing was perfect from the time the first swing is up. He's got the control. Charlie made it happen by being timed up with his horse with the steer, and being able to not just rope, but to pick that steer's head up without changing the momentum for the heeler at all.
We know his beautiful wife, Jackie, all three of their beautiful children, the founder of the Liberty and Loyalty Foundation, which this year will exceed $1 million raised for military and first responders. I've said it 1,000 times. Charlie, it's time to rope, nod and ride, whip and spur. I want to welcome you to the Charlie Crawford Podcast. Let's ride.
Hello, everybody. So I'm up here in Sturgis, South Dakota. I just got done doing a clinic with Dee and Tyler Haugen. And I've been trying to get Bill Myers on a podcast for a little bit. And so I was looking into getting a Zoom podcast. But some of the ones that I've seen on a Zoom podcast, I can't say that the audio sometimes I was very confident with it. And so it just worked out where I came up here to Sturgis, South Dakota. And I was able to get Bill to drive on down here and got Bill Myers here on a podcast. Bill, thanks for driving down and meeting me.
No problem. I'm kind of excited for it. We've been talking about it for a long time.
Yeah, we've been talking about it, and I like the personal face-to-face kind of interaction. It seems a little bit more personal and easier going, too, I think, with a podcast.
I really enjoy the personal more than like the phone thing. I get all lost on. It gets a little ridiculous, but yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I've always been a little, concerned with the audio and if it's recording and things like that, so.
I kind of just like the side of it where it's just like we're having a real conversation and I'm just like talking to somebody on the phone too. So it's a win-win.
Yeah. And so you and I have had some conversations, and the other day it worked out really good where I think I was on the skid steer and I had my AirPods in and it was raining and I was moving hay. So we were able to talk a lot about kind of a lot of the things that you had going on. So some of the things I really want to talk to you while I got you here is, you guys have a very established horse program. So I'd love to talk to you about the things that you and your dad have going on up here in the Black Hills, and then also where you guys' involvement are in the horse futurity industries and stuff like that. So first, let's love to talk about, you guys are located up here in the Black Hills, up here in South Dakota. Where are all you guys located? And then how does your operation work?
Oh, as far as like, where's all our family located?
So like, Frenchman's guy, you guys, where you guys are at, what town are you guys in up here in the Black Hills, up here in South Dakota?
We're just about 5 miles outside of Spearfish, South Dakota, in St. Ann, South Dakota. It's like a population 33 town. They have a sale barn.
Little town then.
Yep, sale barn and a bar. And my grandpa actually used to run the sale barn. That's how we moved there. My mom was a clerk and grandpa ran the sale barn. So we ended up in St. Ange. And it's kind of an interesting place because nobody really knows where it's at except bikers during Sturgis and people that come look at horses every once in a while.
Well, I'm extremely jealous right now because Kid Rock just left here with that tour they had up here, and I would have loved to have been. I can only imagine how wild that thing would have been up here in Sturgis with Kid Rock and all his crew with that tour he brought to this town. I bet that thing had to be bad A.
That's super funny because we were breaking in the futurity steers that night, and so Coy Thompson, who's what we released the steers from for the futurity, and he lives on the interstate. And when we were breaking in steers that night, we didn't hear a single motorcycle. And I was like, oh, it must be Kid Rock tonight. And Toy's like, it is Kid Rock tonight. I was like, that's why we don't hear any motorcycles. They're all at Kid Rock. And that was the truth.
They had the motorcycles parked and ready to jam.
They did. They were out at the Buffalo Chip ready to party it now. So
jealous.
Yeah.
So jealous. That guy's such an entertainer. So your dad, is he kind of the one that started the horse program? Was it your grandpa? How did the horse program start?
It was my dad and my mom, actually. So my dad was a racetrack trainer, believe it or not. That's how he got his start in all the horse industry. Well, other than he grew up breaking horses. His uncle was an old Diamond A cowboy from Nevada, taught him how to train horses. My dad's dad passed away when he was 14, so he was raised by his uncle. His uncle was just an old buckaroo cowboy from Nevada that was awesome, had the best stories in the world, taught him how to train the horses. Then he became a race horse trainer, was a cutting trainer, snaffle bit trainer as well. And my mom was always a very competitive barrel racer in the area. And she had a mare that she pretty much just she fed us with the mare. She literally fed us rodeo and barrel racing up here. She won every amateur finals, every circuit finals up here. She fed our family running barrels. And that mare was a 3/4 sister to Frenchman's guy. So that mare I wouldn't necessarily say started. There was a horse called Lord Alamedas. It was also a 3/4 brother to Frenchman's Guy that my dad ran on the track, won out on the track, showed him in the cutting, won in the cutting, showed him in the snaffle bit, won in the snaffle bit, and then Gail Beebe ran him at the barrel futurities, and he won every barrel futurity in the country. So they built their program on versatility. They decided to buy Frenchman's Guy's wean lane because of that horse particularly, and the rest is kind of history on that deal.
What are some of the top girls that was riding Frenchman's Guy? Do you have kind of a list? Because I remember there's
him himself.
Well, a lot of the breedings and things like that.
I mean, even at this day, which Frenchman's Guy has been passed away for 3 years, Emily Beisel's #1 in the world on most of a pretty good chunk of her earnings come up teasing that guy. They call him Chewy, and that's in the barrels. But there's been like Jordan Briggs with her out. Like she was actually the first one that took a Frenchman's Guy Dahlia Lauderette would have been the first one. Jordan would have been the second one to take a barrel horse to the finals. And
did
then
Sherry have some breedings of Frenchman Guy? I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember what De Niro was bred like.
So De Niro would be a 3/4 brother to Frenchman's Guy as well. And he's a full brother to Bozo. So Bozo was also a pretty big part of our program and the Petersons in the beginning, and have been long-term family friends because of the bloodlines. That's how we all met and connected, and away we go.
Because I remember when I was ERA rodeoing, I think the horse called Can Man, and I believe it was Dash to Fame and Frenchman's Guy, if I remembered right.
I'm pretty sure Can Man is, I can't remember his breeding. I believe it's, I thought
Ashley Schaefer said, I thought that's what she had told me. And so the reason I noticed that, because when, she showed up there, she was a futurity girl, and I think she trained that horse, and she just rocked it.
Yep.
Like she took to all of them. And I remember when we were, I think in Napa, Idaho, so we did a few shows up there. And so, as from one show to the next, we're all riding in the arena and breaking in steers or doing whatever. And she was working Can Man. And I just remember watching that horse lope around and shoulders up, butt down, and just watching that horse, just the way it naturally moved, it looked like a head horse.
Right.
And I was like, I always wanted to try that breeding. And I know that Driggers has been dabbling around, I think, with some of that breeding as well, but it just naturally looked really easy.
And that's so Joe Spitz and Dad are really good friends, and actually it's kind of funny. I don't quote me on this, and this is bad because it's a podcast, but I believe Can Man's mom was purchased out of our sale, maybe. I do like I said, do not quote me on that. But I thought she was Colonel Freckles for some reason.
Could have been.
I thought she was like Coyote Colonel, but do not quote me, because I've been so hyper focused on the team rope and breeding for the last 3 years. It's almost unbelievable. So what is some of them? So you kind of started off in the barrel world, a little bit, and so now what are some of the events that you guys are in now that you're breeding for? So it's funny because we didn't really aim to go to the barrel world. The barrel world kind of just chose us. Yeah, it was. We always just sold broke 2-year-olds. Like we had a 2-year-old production sale. There was Chris Ashear who had SX Frenchman's Vanilla, and that just kind of put us at the top of the barrel deal, and it just kind of chose us, honestly. But we'd roped on him our whole lives. So my calf horse that I started roping calves on when I was an 8th grader was a Frenchman's Guy out of one of Paul Tierney's mares called PT Bubbling Creek. Like, we have always crossed the Frenchman's Guys on the cow horse mares, kind of just to mess for ourselves, if that makes sense.
What is some of the reason for that?
Because we all roped, and we all knew breeding, so we knew what we could do to make a good rope horse for ourselves.
Because I've heard that if you put a run bred to a cow horse, that you're going to have the speed mixed with some intelligence.
Bingo.
Now, have you found? Is there a certain pattern that you found? Is race good on the stud side? And maybe is a cow horse good on the mom's side? Have you found it? Have you tweaked with anything, or is it just kind of hit and miss on that?
I think the hardest part with that question is it really comes down to spending the time with the horse, if that makes sense, and learning their mentality, as opposed to just crossing it based on the papers.
Got it.
So
that makes sense.
If you have, I've seen it work well on both sides. I've seen it work well on run mares on cow studs and run studs on cow mares. I think the most important part of that is just spending the time with the animal to learn their mentality. And then I think that's one of maybe the most overlooked things with breeding is the mentality. Conformations are great, papers are great, but if you know what that horse's mentality is like, maybe he gets hot in some situations, maybe he's not, where you can cross a stud or a mare that doesn't act like that, you're really leveling out their mental space. And it's kind of funny because it gets talked about with humans constantly. Mental game, mental game, mental game. But horses are just, they're smart.
Yeah, because I know one thing. If my kids ever turn out to be successful, everyone's going to give credit to the mare.
Absolutely.
My wife's going to get all the credit. I don't think my stud fee's going to be real high.
Charlie, that was a little bit on. You're putting yourself down there a little bit.
Well, let's be real.
I mean, I feel like you guys are a pretty good little power couple.
Yeah, the goal is hopefully they produce well. So that's the goal.
So I don't know if there's like a definitive answer, but I really do feel like the mare drives the ship. I mean, I think I think there's a lot of guys probably going to be listening to this, but I think most every guy would probably agree. I'd say 90% of them that the wife does wear the pants in the relationship, and might as well just accept that with the horses too.
Yeah. I just enjoy the fact that when you have a good intelligent mare that has got to produce some good, because it seems like the mare is kind of the one around the colt the most. And so it does seem like they're going to learn a lot of those attributes.
That's what I was going to say is I think that the mare really does pass on. And I mean, I don't know if there are any stats number wise, but just from all of our years of doing it and being hands-on with it, it seems like the mare passes on 80% of the attributes. Because like you said, the mare spends all the time with it. They're going to learn her mentality because of the raising of it, as opposed to a stud just does its job, and you're going to get the genetics out of the deal, but the mare's mentality is always going to kind of pass along, if that makes it seems like. And I shouldn't say definitively like I'm the expert on that, just from what I've seen over my life, if that makes sense.
So I've seen you guys been getting in the rope horse because I really love that horse. What is it? Yes, I'm Sassy.
Yes,
is that the mare that Drigger's been riding?
Yep.
I think I watched her maybe at Ardmore, at maybe the Gold Buckle. I think he rode her.
Dakota rode her at the Gold Buckle.
Okay.
Yep, in Ardmore.
Drigger's rode her
at the American Rope Horse Futurity. I think it was an oil can classic in Ardmore. Yep.
Okay.
If that's Tulsa.
And then
maybe it's a Redbud Spectacular.
And then I think I seen Brock Hansen ride that sucker over there at Fort Worth. Because I remember I snapped a picture and asked you, like, hey, is this the horse Brock rode it?
That's right. I didn't know Brock rode it that day.
She looked like the best horse there.
Oh, she's ranked.
She ran so hard, she outran the start.
Yep.
So, I mean, he broke out on her. But that one really caught my eye fast. That's when I remember you and I were talking, and I snapped a picture of the breeding when that was on the big screen. I'm like, hey, is this one of yours? Because it was one of the, Frenchman guy.
Yep.
And it caught my eye right off the bat. And then I think I watched Driggers ride it out there in Utah at the Old West Futurity.
He did. I think he won fourth or fifth,
maybe third, right there
with a breakout, Charlie.
No lie.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I noticed about her is not that she left early; it looked like she outrun the start.
Yep.
Because when I watched Brock ride her, that's one of the things that stood out. He's seen the start, but when he let her go, she inhaled that son of a bitch.
Like when Caleb and Sam
stood out to me.
Both of them, and both Brock is, I don't know. Brock's one of the most unsung heroes in the rope horse futurity industry right now.
Stud.
It's unbelievable how much help that guy gives people and how fair he is and kind, and he does not mess up. He doesn't. I mean, he does maybe one, like you might see that guy miss one steer an entire futurity and he's a professional like that. That's allowed. Like that, it's unbelievable. But between those two, like Driggers, I don't know, like he shows that mare so good. They just click. It's interesting, and
he's such a great jockey. I've got it on my phone. I have it on one of my favorites. So he's one of the guys that I'll use a lot when I talk about, making good runs and watching how good he rides the horse. But I love that reel that they got on him the other day at the Rope Horse Futurity.
Oh, that was on the mare. Yeah.
Look how good she sets that shot up.
That was a first round win there. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't watch that because I was too nervous. I was loping horses for Dakota.
Comes right around. But he does such a good job of riding her. But he's such a great jockey. But you also got to have a horse, too, that's good under you.
Yep.
And that, like I said, that mare has really stood out to me a lot.
And, me and Caleb have been friends for a very long time. And we've messed around with what works for all this stuff. And that just kind of happened by happen chance. I think maybe Dakota had asked him to start jockeying that mare a little bit. And I think that one in Ardmore was his first outing on her. And it was just like, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
That mare's had a lot of bad luck, but he's learned to ride because of the futurities.
Totally
like
agree.
He has actually,
This has helped a lot of the ropers.
Yes.
Helped a lot of the top competitors.
And it's really starting to help the amateurs too, because they don't like, they're trying to figure out like, how do I win? How do I win? Well, if you listen to what the judges are saying and then start adjusting your riding based on that
and your training,
you're getting better. Luke Atchison won the 4-year-old at Royal Crown last week. He's a 6+ healer against Trevor, everybody, the best guys in the game.
Yeah,
like, people are getting better. So
it's really helping the industry a lot.
It's really cool.
So you're in the barrel world, got some good team roping horses right there making some good name for themselves. Now, what about some of the breakaway? You got some horses that are starting to kind of come out in the breakaway side of it that you know of?
We got a little bit. I've seen a couple. I actually saw him. I'm a special kind of guy up in Rock Springs last week at Royal Crown. And then Miles Kenzie, he has a very nice smooth guy stud that he's showing in the calf roping. He's actually been winning quite a bit on him between Gold Buckle, Royal Crown, and the rest of the Futurity. And he's riding him at the pro rodeos, and he's only a 5 or 6-year-old right now.
That's awesome.
And, the smooth guy was always kind of my hope to be my rope horse stud, and that was before the Futurities ever started. So when he passed away, so it was kind of sad for me to see that go. But then seeing his offspring excel has been pretty cool, and in multiple events, like I see him in the breakaway, I see him in the calf roping, I see him in the heeling, I see him in the heading. That's pretty fun.
So what are some of the studs you guys are promoting there in your guys' program?
We actually have, I'm a special kind of guy who's a son of Frenchman's guy out of a special leader mare. I headed on him last year. Yep, like special leader. I like that. I headed on him last year, 3 Gold Buckle. He's ranked head on. We have Mr. Sassy Frenchman, who is a Frenchman's guy out of a Mr. Jess Perry mare. Dad has won a couple intermediates on him at Royal Crowns. I showed him in the heeling at Buckeye 2 years ago and won. I think I ended up winning 14th, but had a helper breakout where I would have ended up winning 5th, I think. And he's like 15-1. Like, he's fun as heck to heel on. And then also, like I said, Dad's won quite a bit on the heading on him. And Brooke Howell, now Cruchet, I think she won like dang near 30,000 breakaway on him for a 15-1 stud. And then we have, we just bought a Woody B. Tough son from,
I really like those horses.
They're awesome.
I love their minds.
I think they're really going to work for the roping well because of their size too, and their minds, like they cross well on those. They cross well on those running bred mares because of their minds.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So that's kind of Dakota. Kirchenschlager has him now. We'll be showing him next year, and it's just kind of we really bought him to start crossing on our Frenchman's Guy daughters because the rope horse industry is blown up so much, and we are all ropers. So it's kind of like the happy, we're all smiling our butts off and hoping to not.
Yeah. You guys are going in a good spot, and I love your breeding program. I really do.
Yep.
What is kind of your program? So like as yearlings, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds to 4-year-olds on up to when they age out, what's kind of your guys' program?
So like the way we do it is we're all in-house. So my dad and brother break all our 2-year-olds. I breed, like I do all of our repro work. So like the ultrasound and AIN, collecting shipments and all of that. So it literally starts with me breeding them. And then we let the mares have their colt. We pull the babies off in the fall, halter break them, take our mares back to our other ranch. And that's where they winter. And then once we're done halter breaking the babies, we lot them out with yearlings. And then we just kind of keep them up at the other ranch until they're of age. We bring them back to St. Ange, start everything. And I kind of keep doing the same thing every year. Brandon and Dad keep doing the same thing every year. We just kind of have a little system there.
And then when you guys start roping on them and
we sell them as 2-year-olds.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've always been a 2-year-old
Because you sent me some videos where you're roping on some of them, so I didn't know if you some of you keep, some of you kind of do yourself, or
so we
just mainly sell them.
We just rope on our 2-year-olds as like we just rope the dummy on them because it gives them something to do.
Got it.
And I mean, like that's kind of what's always been funny is
you kind of break them along with kind of training them in a way.
Well, the funniest part about that is everyone's like, you're a barrel program. Like we don't ever take them around the barrels. Like we rope the dummy on them because our firm belief in that is like, give them another job, honestly. Like, and I think there's a lot of people that would agree with me on that is like, horse get kind of bored going around a barrel all the time. Like, let them do something. Give them a little bit of spectrum when they're like.
Now, with this kind of being ranch country out here, are you guys able to get them outside and go do any day work and kind of cowboy on them at all? Or
so we just have like this ginormous mountain behind our house, and we'll ride them. Like that's kind of our 2-year-old hill. Like just and I cowboy on mine because it's just kind of like what I like to do. But
Mhm.
Brandon and Dad just they stay pretty strict on the stay at home. They like to put handles on them, so they kind of like to do their thing.
You guys are just kind of playing your strengths with
Yep.
what you like to do, and what you like to do is good for them horses and
Yes,
be able
sir.
to do different things.
And not necessarily our strengths. It's like it's more figuring out what the horse needs, if that makes sense. And so,
Well, what I was kind of thinking was like, all right, your strengths, if you enjoy doing this, okay, this horse needs to do what you enjoy.
yes, sir.
Your brother, this horse needs what he enjoys doing and where his strengths are, to where it kind of mix and matches where they fit him with what they need at
That's
the time.
what's super funny about that too. Is like my brother will just be like, "This is your horse," and he'll just send it down. Like I have like a 10 stall run in front of my house,
Yeah.
and he knows like the kind of horses I like, and like he'll just be like, "This one's yours," and he'll just put it in my stalls down there, and then that's kind of my little project for the meantime. I'm like, "What do you want me to do with it?" He's like, "Do whatever you want with it. He's yours."
Right on.
Yep. He just knows which ones fit me, and
So what is your guys' website? So if anyone's interested in breeding, interested in 2-year-olds, because I know you guys have all that stuff on your guys' website. What is your website?
it's FrenchmansGuide.com. Yes, sir. Yep.
Nice. Now, what about sales? You guys also have some sales too, don't you?
So we used to. We haven't actually done a.
Trevor?
Yeah. We haven't actually done a
We'll send him
sale.
back a middle finger here. Got to love
Send
when we're
him
on a podcast and Trevor Brazil calls you.
Yeah.
Good work. That's when you know you're hitting right. When you got some good horses, when them top guys start calling you out there, Bill, now
Man, I
things
don't
are
know.
rolling. Love it.
But what was the question?
The horse sales. If
Oh.
you mainly like, how do they get the breeding? You had your website on there. So what about the 2-year-olds that they're able to purchase? Are they
So-
online? Do you guys have sales anymore? Things
We're
like
just
that?
we're just private treaty now. I think when was our last sale? 2020 was our last sale, and we'd started the production sale in 2001. So I say technically we had it for 20 years, but I mean that was what we had. We had almost 70 head of brood mares, and everything was in house. And we started all the 2-year-olds and sold broke 2-year-olds, and every once in a while we'd sell a baby or whatever. But now we're kind of just more on the like we were just straight up on private treaty because we reduced our.
So what
mare
is
down a
private
little
treating?
bit.
What is it?
I mean, if you're interested in buying one, give Dad a call.
Got it.
Yep,
So basically, it's a personal interaction instead of just run them through a sale.
absolutely. Yep. And I mean, our sale was always our own sale, so we maybe had like 1 or 2 outside consigners, if that made sense. But the majority of what we were doing was our own horses. It was a Myers Performance Horses production sale, and that was. I mean, I don't know if it was. I don't think any of us knew what we were doing at the time, but we were essentially marketing our brand in the horse industry, which has helped us out immensely in the long run.
So basically, those 2-year-olds, that's off your website, FrenchmansGuide.com. That's where you can be able to get a hold of you to be able to get a hold of like any purchasing of 2-year-olds.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Awesome. So now let's roll on to the futurities. And this stuff's taken off, which is awesome. I love it because, in my opinion, this has, you touched on it earlier, this has really helped a lot of the top level guys. It helps with their roping. It helps a lot with their riding. And it's given a lot of other people that have those strengths and outlooks into things to where, I know Tate Kirkenslager, he was talking about Brock Hansen the other day. You know, this guy's developed a set of skills since he was 8 years old and developed it and mastered his craft. You know, and so when rodeo is done, you know, for a lot of people, they have to go get a job.
Yep.
You know, the dream is over.
Right.
The fraternities have done such a good job of, those guys still have strengths. You know, what Brock Hansen now has done is developed a business with what he's really good at with heading and heeling, to where now he's one of the best helpers in the industry.
He's not he is the best helper in the industry.
And then
that's
also
my
your
opinion, but
Tate Kirkenslagers, now that Trevor's retired, you know, all the guys that also rodeoed now, this gives them an outlet too of still being able to develop their passion. And also another thing is, you know, there's so many ropers out there.
right.
You know, the advantage of rope horse fraternities is the fact of the outlet for those horses when they age out is very wide, unlike any other industry. You know, you got the 14 ropings to the 13 ropings to the 12, all the way down to the 7. That's a big amount of ropers
Humans,
that
yeah.
you're trying to produce animals for, that's saturated of ropers and not enough people making them. So this is a great job of creating better horses, in my opinion. And also, too, that doesn't even count the top level, even though that number is real small. But that's the goal, is where, man, when them horses hit, if they hit that top level and they're at the NFR and winning BFIs, you know, winning promotes a great stud.
Always.
Winning
yep.
produces a great product. And same thing when it comes down to, when that horse wins the 13 or the 12 at the the World Series finals in Vegas, and on down the line. And so the futurities have really been taken off. And so you're a part of the Platinum Futurity, correct?
Yep, Platinum Medal Futurity.
So walk me through everything that you guys do with the Platinum Futurity.
Okay, so essentially, like on account of, I more or less, so when I used to work for Dakota Kirkenslager, and he was still rodeoing when I worked for him. And in the midst of me working for him, he started riding. Jay had started his American Rope Horse Futurity finals, and he rode some horses for Lorenzo Armonte the first year they had it in Fort Worth. And I went with him, and I was so excited because for 10 plus or more years, I had been wondering why team ropers wouldn't pay good money for horses, because they can win more money than barrel racers, if that makes sense. Like a barrel racer would come to our sale and spend $110,000 on a 2-year-old to take to a Wednesday night jackpot to win $800 if they were lucky. And that was the market. That was what it was. But a team roper was having a hard time, like an average team roper like me, I'm a 6 heeler, was having a hard time paying $10,000 for a good, great horse to go work at the World Series where you could make that money back in a weekend.
Right.
And so that was kind of how I got into all of this. And the passion behind it became part of it. And I kind of got lost in where the question was because of the text messages and calls, but we can touch
after a
back
while.
on
You got
that.
to turn that thing upside down, especially
Yeah.
if Trevor's calling. That'll sidetrack you right there.
Man. Well, and the hard part is like our
Well, you also got some futurities coming, so you got a lot of things you're juggling right now.
Well, our entries closed yesterday, so today's our confirmation. So this is like all the people texting me like,
Roger that.
I need to add this to the side pod or that to that side pod. I guarantee you that's why Trevor was calling.
Yeah, just kind of walking through you guys' Platinum Futurity and kind of what all you do and what your involvement is, how it works, what all events you kind of have.
Yeah, okay, so that was where I was getting to. So when I started this, like I was excited about the rope course futurity period. And the first few years of it, I was like, all right, this would be a good place for like a trainer, anything like that. And so when I dropped Platinum Medal, I decided I wanted to do a 3D rope course futurity because the D system built the barrel industry, period. Like, I mean, there is no ifs, ands, buts about it. The D system built their barrel industry because there was somewhere for all the horses to go. Not the people, like the people are the people. It is what it is. Not all the horses are going to be 1D horses. And it created a space for all the horses to go to. So I had this idea to basically add this 3D rope horse futurity with a sale, which I had in Guthrie last year, where the horses were potential rope horse futurity prospects. And it went really well last year in Guthrie. Unfortunately, I had to move to South Dakota just for some reasons, and we're not having the sale this year. But the goal with it has always been futurity industry growth and creating and facilitating a space for everyone to rope in, not just the open guys. Like right now, we have the 3D open futurity, which really facilitates a place for everybody because of the splits, to where people can kind of rope against, guys like you and still have a chance, if that makes sense. This year, I also added a limited that's capped at a 70 heeler and a 60 header with a 5E side pot in the middle. Like the goal has always been growth.
Mm-hmm.
Like get more people. It's a very fun way to rope. It's a new way to rope. And the easiest way I can put it is like, you can either go spend $1,000, rope with 5 guys in a weekend, hope you draw the right steers, or you can spend $1,000, get 4 steers guaranteed, hire Charlie Crawford to head for you, have 4 chances at money, and just go enjoy your day. And that's really just been the Platinum Medal was literally created with the mentality of growth to facilitate a safer space for everybody roping.
And so now, after we talked the other day, I believe that if I understood it right, you have merged with Gold Buckle. Is that correct?
Me personally, I did the breeders incentive with Platinum Medal last year, and it was a new concept because everything's a stallion incentive. And I've been in the barrel industry for my whole life. I've seen how the barrel incentives work. They do not work. And so I kind of took a little step back and decided Royal Crown is very good, though, by the way. It does work. But the other one's not great. But to kind of step back and just was like, all right, how can I kind of tweak with these things? And especially with the way the team roping industry is going right now, is everything's a stallion incentive. There's a lot of people buying stallions, but who's breeding to the stallions? So I created a breeder's incentive, hoping that it would stimulate the other stallion incentives to get people to start breeding to them. And that was how I ended up with Gold Buckle. Is we just decided to put the breeders' incentive across all 3 of our events, and now I'm with them. So
who all is involved in now that this merger of the Gold Buckle?
in Gold Buckle, it's Caleb Driggers, Shane Hanchey, Haven Medjid, Jeremy Barwick, and me.
So Jeremy Barwick is a name that I think is unfamiliar a little bit in my industry.
Right.
But when I talk about Jeremy Barwick amongst the industry and when I start talking about it in front of Echobrand and people who are very intimate with the industry, that is a huge name. And like when I'm telling you, people go, "Oh, Jeremy's involved?" And I'm telling you, eyebrows raise. And so just to kind of introduce him to some of my listeners, because a lot of them are team ropers like me, who I honestly never heard of him until I had heard that is a strong name. Like that is a name brand. I believe the Triangle sale, maybe in Oklahoma City, he's a big part of it.
Triangles, and Western Bloodstock.
One of the biggest horse sales, has a lot to do with him and cutting, snaffle bit. He's a big
Brazos Valley Stallion Station. It's funny because I worked for Jeremy when I lived in Stephenville, and he actually said this in a podcast, so I feel like it's okay to say, but like when I worked for him, we were watching the American Rope Horse Futurity finals in the stud barn. I'm like, this is going to create a market for horses in the rope world. And he was like, I don't know what he thought about it. He didn't say much because Jeremy don't say much. But I was like, I think he probably was just like, there ain't no way. I'm not trying to quote him, but here we are.
Here we are.
But Jeremy is for the industry. He is not for himself. And that's kind of what I like about Gold Buckle. There isn't really anybody in our organization that's in it for themselves. We all kind of understand where we're at with everything. We would rather pay the money out and build this because we're all industry involved. We're not event involved, if that makes sense. All of us.
Well, I know anything Driggers has to do with, I'm involved with not involved with, I'm a fan of because I know Driggers.
Yes, sir.
And what you said about, industry, wanting the industry to get better, that is Driggers. I mean, he's a timed event. Or the team roping director. You only do that if you're trying to make things better.
And he's a stallion owner, and that's the other
he's an entrepreneur. He wants to see it get better, and so I'm a huge fan of him as well. But I've heard this Jeremy is a stud.
Oh, he's just a great guy. I mean, I don't really know any better way to describe him other than selfless, like for the growth of the industry and the betterment of the industry. And he's a helping hand to so many people that don't understand breeding. Like he will sit there and talk to you, like show him confirmations. He's just a good guy. He will take the time out of his day to help anybody with that stuff.
That's awesome. What a great opportunity to have somebody like that involved.
It's unbelievable. And I was lucky and blessed to even work for him back in the day. And that was kind of where I started developing a little bit of my cross mindset because of just seeing those studs and being around them every day, like Metallic Cat, hashtags. Like I would handle them daily. And that was when you get to learn those studs mentalities, like it really does help on your crosses.
So what about the events that you guys have now in your futurities? What all events do you have?
As of now, we have tie down, breakaway, and team roping, heading and heeling team roping. And then...
So no barrels?
Nope. No, sir. No barrels.
So how are they judged and let's just go down the judging. So so let's just go down team roping. That's kind of my bread and butter. So how are they judged and how is it different than maybe some of the other fraternities or is it along the same lines?
So the thing Gold Buckle does, it's a little bit different, is we use 4 judges and we drop the high and low score. So it helps me. I believe it takes the bias out of it because if you got a judge that even just like, oh man, I like this person a little bit more on a personal side or anything like that, maybe give them a couple extra points, that high score gets dropped. Or maybe the judge doesn't like that. I'm giving it on a personal level or a horse level. Because basically, at the end of the day, we're paying the person for their opinion. Drop that low score, and you get that median score, plus the time is subtracted from 60, and then that's your third score. And it's all added together, and that makes a cumulative score. But I really do think that the standout with Gold Buckle is the 4-judge system and the drop the high-low, because it takes the bias out completely.
What maneuvers are they judged on?
They're judged on the box. The heading is box, run, rate, set, handle, finish, face. And
so a lot of the same stuff than a lot of the other ones.
Yes, sir. Yep. And heeling is box, run, rate is one category, entry, stop, finish. Yep.
And then what about the breakaway? What are they judged on?
Breakaway is judged on box, run rate as well, 2 separate maneuvers, and stop.
So basically, they're basically the 3 maneuvers in.
4 maneuvers. Yep.
So
So run rate is 1 on its own.
Yeah, and
I
then
can't
stop.
There
and
is
finish.
5. I can't remember what the
Really?
other one is, but
Hmm.
off the top of my head, I know the tie down one because it's rope work. It gets added in there, but
Yeah, that's where I think the calf row would be more because of how they
Yep.
keep it tight.
I'm trying to
I was
figure
just
out
thinking 3. It sounded like in the breakaway box, how good they score and leave, then run and rate, and then stop.
Well, and the run and rate is separate in the breakaway.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
actually run
Okay.
and then rate. And that's where the separate maneuvers come in there.
Roger
and then
that.
stop. And I don't know if there's a finish on that one, but there might be. But I can't. And it's going to sound terrible because I can't remember off the top of my head, but just can't.
So how excited are you guys about the breakaway?
I am so excited about the breakaway and the tie down, like both of those.
Well, I'm more of a fan of the breakaway because I have a bunch of girls, but and I'm intimate in the industry. But it seems like to me, in the fact of, and nothing against calf rope, I'm not saying it that way. It just I know how women spend money,
Yep.
and there's a lot of numbers right now flooding the industry in the breakaway. Because me and Billy Bray and Jackie did a podcast, and Billy Bray brought the numbers on what is exploding in the industry. Just going down, I think in the Southwest region the other day, she was talking about that region had more breakaway ropers than barrel racers. I think in the
Really?
250s. So it was the biggest event in rodeo in that region. That's hard to oversee the barrels. So to me, that's when people are looking at futurities and adding breakaway. The numbers are there. So that's what I mean by I'm really excited about it because let's not lie. I love the breakaway. I love the girls. I love rodeo. But if there's not going to be an NFR that's worth rodeoing, you're going to start seeing girls that are really good at riding, really good at roping, really good at training horses, being able to start, in my opinion, start coming back down to the futurities because the money's there.
Already seeing it.
Yep.
Like it isn't even in the midst of it, the money part of it, but also just like it's hard to be 1/8 everywhere. Like if you got to be 1/8 to get last hole at a rodeo. And it's kind of interesting. Me and B have talked about this a little bit. Like once that rodeo floodgate opened for those girls, like it was just everybody wanted a rodeo. Everybody wanted a rodeo. It's getting tougher. It's getting tougher. Now they're kind of looking for an alternative to being 1/8 all the time, if that makes sense. And that's where our growth is coming from in such a big way is the rodeo girls who haul and are very handy, good trainers, can rope good, are figuring out it's a lot more beneficial to go make 4 practice runs at a futurity, keep their horse good, and win. I mean, Bo Peterson won $80,000 at our Ardmore event.
That's rank.
And just
That's a year.
Yep.
It's a year for a girl rodeo.
That's more than I make a year salary wise.
Well, you
by
got to
a long
think like
ways.
right now, the fact that the money's getting a little bit better, for them rodeoing throughout the year, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're running at $5,000 rounds and a $10,000 average, I think, or maybe 12, I forget exactly what the numbers are. But I think that Cheyenne Guillory was the high money winner last year at the NFR. I think at 26,000,
That's it.
26, 28. I can Google it maybe, but it was
And that's
within that
at
range.
the NFR.
So I mean, that's basically paying your credit cards and maybe your vet bills if nothing bad would happen and break out at 0, and there you go again next year.
And hope your sponsors are really taking care of
Right.
the rest of it on the
Right.
backside. Yeah.
Exactly.
But in the numbers, it's so crazy because, and like you were talking about the numbers, like the amateur rodeos up here will get 120 breakaway. I mean, you met the Haugans today. Those girls are handy.
Yeah.
Like they rope good.
Good girls too.
And I mean, the girls in this country up here rope outstanding, but they see no value in rodeoing for a living because they're ranchers, they're cowboys, they're farmers. Like, I mean, it's tough. Joey Williams, obviously from here, but and there's several actually people that make the finals from up here. But
I want to do a podcast one time, and I want to run over the numbers one day. I think it's really good for the parents to be able to hear, okay, let's put the pencil to the paper. How much is a truck payment? How much is insurance? How much is a trailer? How much is a good horse? How much is calves? Go down the long line of all the things, of other things these kind of things cost. What's the feed? What's the worming? What's the shoeing? How much is your vet bills?
right.
Because those things fluctuate, and those things ain't getting cheap. And then, okay, now what do you got to win
To pay
to make
that
that
off.
stuff
Yep.
work? And it's not that you're trying to deter anybody from going to the PRCA. You just want to at least give them at least a realistic idea of what they're getting into.
Well, and the other side of that too is like we didn't even touch on the entry fee side of it or the travel and the fact that the travel is hard on the horse itself.
Oh my gosh.
So then you got the horse kind of getting depleted like a truck because of the hauling. So, I mean, figure out what's the word I'm looking for right there? Depreciation on your horse from the hauling.
Exactly right.
And you look at somebody like, I'm just going to use Bo again as an example because we just talked about her, but takes 5 horses to Ardmore, wins first through third on them, had to haul for 1 weekend, and then actually is creating a better horse out of that she can sell to somebody in the future to go rodeo on.
Yeah.
It's just a win-win across the board because you're creating 3 different jobs out of that one animal. Essentially, you're taking care of the event itself, the breeder, the stallion, and the person riding it. Plus, if they have clients as well. Like you're taking care of a lot of people with one animal, and the depreciation going down the road is it's just you and the horse, and whatever happens.
So you talked about, Bo bringing 5 horses, and I think 3 of them you said placed, right?
First through third. She won
First,
second,
That's
third.
awesome. So you have, team roping, both events heading and heeling. You got the breakaway and you got the calf roping. So each one of these events, how many horses can you ride?
At Platinum Medal, it's unlimited, like because of the D system. And honestly, like I'm in South Dakota. I was in Guthrie last year, but the goal with that was to get more people in, understanding that the judge thing was very fun and enjoyable. So I did unlimited and any age in the breakaway calf roping this year with a 6 and under side pot, just to kind of help grow it, if that makes sense. But
so do you fear that the top guys are going to overrun the limited guys and things like, you know what I'm saying? Like when the top trainers bring 10 head of horses,
right,
and they win all the holes, is there any backlash that you see going forward of like the guys that are trying to build their name and come up where they get beat so much that it might be depleting their confidence of entering?
Well, the cool thing about Gold Buckle and Platinum Medal is we have an intermediate. So that's its own separate pot. So if you're not in the top 50 and you've never made the finals, you're considered an intermediate. And that is its own payout. We add money to that. But the cool thing with that is if you also win in the open, you double dip in the open.
Okay.
So Platinum
Medal. So what
really,
are all the incentives as far as like, so what is basically the intermediate? What is that category?
The intermediate category would be in breakaway and tie down for Gold Buckle, and this is what we're just kind of making our standard as of now until we can kind of develop.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of like it where it's at, and it's working really well. Is current top 50 in the world, and if you've ever packed a back number, you're considered a professional.
Okay.
And if you're not, you're intermediate.
Intermediate.
Yep.
And are those the only 2 standards?
That's it. Yep.
So no limited. Is it just intermediate and pros?
That's in the tie down breakaway. Yep. Okay. In the team roping, we have the limited, which is capped at a 7E healer and a 6E header. And then it has a 5E non-pro side pot on both sides
Non-pro.
of that. Yep.
Okay. So yours is pro, limited, and non-pro.
Yep.
Those 3.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep. And then where that's kind of been like, and me and Caleb, we talk about this a lot. Like our goal is to grow it at every level of it, every level of roper. Because it's supposed to be about the horse. And there's a lot of horse trainers that are 6s and 7s that don't rope as good as the pros that can train a horse really good. And we would like to also stimulate that, if that makes sense, because there are great horse trainers out there. And there's going to be a need for those great horse trainers in the future.
Now, the 3Ds that you were talking about earlier,
yep.
You have then the 3D is in the breakaway, correct?
Nope, that's just in the team roping. I don't have any
3D?
Yep, just in the team roping.
Okay. So the breakaway is just the pros and the limited.
Pros and intermediate, and we have a 6 and under side pot. Yep.
Okay.
For the horses.
Okay. And so the 3Ds, now is that limited to like pros, intermediate, and non-pros in the Ds, or is that just, because what I mean by that, so whatever wins it, that's going to be a certain time, right? That's the 1D, right?
Yep.
And then your 2D is going to, how far do you subtract from the 1D to the 2D?
So the way I set it up, and this is just, it was my own little invention thing, right? Is I set it up to where it's based off the entries. So the easiest way to describe is if I get 100 entries, I take 45% back to the short round. And the first division would be 1st through 15th place horses. The second division would
That's
be...
the 1D.
Yep.
Okay.
Second division would be 16th through 30th. And third division would be 31st through 45th. Okay. And I pay half of those divisions in the short round. So it literally just comes back to how you make it back in the short round. And then you're kind of just in that short round. and the top half of that gets paid. So the splits happen based on the short round, essentially. And I like it because it brings back the top horses anyways. You're not kicking horses out of the short round that shouldn't be there. You're bringing back the top 45% no matter what. It's not diluted. And then once you get to the short round, you battle it out, and whoever wins, wins.
Because the first thing I was thinking of, is the guys who know how to do strategy.
Right.
The top guys, they can manipulate a run any way they want to. So if this horse right here, if they have to take a couple extra swings so they get it qualified in 2D or the 3D,
Bingo.
As long as that doesn't, basically take the confidence away from the intermediate and the non-pros. That's what I was trying to get at, was in the fact of guys that know how to run numbers and run strategies, making sure that that's not kicking out your, basically where the feeder system is your non-pros and your intermediates, because those are the guys. I always think of it as a pyramid. Your top guys are at the top. You want to leave the bottom wide open.
Absolutely.
That way there's plenty of room for that next guy that's coming up to get to the top.
And then the real goal is hope that a bottom guy wins the 1D someday.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But and that's how it's been in the barrels. That's how some barrel trainers have made their names, is just come out of nowhere, win that stuff. But that was kind of how I felt like it would be the fairest, to not dilute the pool and just make cuts, take back the top horses and let them make their last run and leave it that way. And that's why I lock them in the short rounds. So they can't move up and down in the short rounds. The goal is to complete the course the best you can. And wherever you come back, that's where the most money is, if that makes sense. If you're in the first division, that's where the most money is.
Now you talk about the money. Now I've heard a lot of people talking a lot and giving you guys really good praise about the money you guys are bringing into this.
Right.
So where is the money coming from? That's because you guys, I've heard the payouts. I've heard a lot of the trainers, a lot of the ropers are talking about these Gold Buckle Futurities now are paying out really, really good. So where does the money come from?
The stallion owners. I mean, in all fairness, and that's, we need to give a lot more credit to the horse people in what's building right now, because they're the payouts right now. But we choose to pay it all out, if that makes sense, instead of keep it for ourselves. So we're not making money out the stallion owners. We believe that is their spot to produce. I mean, if they're doing better, we're doing better in the long run. And nobody's given the horse owners that pedestal, if that makes sense. But that's where the payouts are coming from, and our belief is to pay it out, not keep it for ourselves, if that makes sense.
And then you've also got sponsors too.
Yes,
I've looked down the line on there, so there's also some stuff coming from that direction as well.
Well, and that was me and Caleb's thing, is we just don't want to be lazy. And I'm not saying that anybody else is being lazy, but our goal is to grow the actual payout in the fraternity that's completely open. Anybody can enter those, by the way. Our stallion and breeders incentives are separate side pots for eligible horse only. So those are on their own. The added money goes right into the main payout. So you're literally, if you have a stallion incentive, breeders incentive, and just a regular horse at a Gold Buckle Futurity, you're eligible for 3 checks just entering.
So people are going to really start paying attention now to what they're buying.
Yes, sir.
How many incentives is this horse, qualifying for?
Correct. Yep.
That makes sense.
It's really neat because nobody gets to touch that money if they don't have an eligible horse. That is their pots only.
And
if
like
they
you say,
into that,
the breeders are investing in this, and the goal of the guys looking for that next horse are going and trying to find those breedings.
Yes, sir.
And incentive eligible.
And the publicity too, behind it is if they do good and people go to look to I think the coolest thing about the breeders incentive is it's program based. So it's the program, the over 40 ranch, they won 2 breeders incentive classes at the Ardmore Futurity, and they're mostly a cutting program. And when I sent them their top breeders award, they're we've had so many calls, people looking for horses. And the AQHA preaches this too, name recognition builds the industry. The more you can get the horses' names out there, the breeders, the stallions, we all have to have a horse to do what we're doing right now. So why would we not want to grow that side of it, if that makes sense?
Because you think about anything else, Nike, Under Armour, all those people have built a brand.
Right.
And those brands are trusted in quality and things like that. And so you guys are literally doing a lot of the same stuff with the studs and the people getting in this industry.
Absolutely. And with the events themselves, it's our responsibility to facilitate those places for those people. If they're helping us with these payouts, or the industry, not us, Gold Buckle, but the industry as a whole, if their stuff's winning, like it is our responsibility to tell you what stud, what mare, who the breeder is, because the name recognition is going to grow this faster than anything.
So you talk about, some of the other fraternities and what you guys are trying to do. What do you feel like your fraternity is different than the others? Because I think a lot of people talk about the concern of, are we having so many fraternities where we're diluting the amount of horses? We don't want to saturate it, right?
Right.
So you guys have obviously found something that you feel like is different than the other fraternities out there. What do you feel like yours is different than the other ones that are going?
I don't know the answer to that. Like, that's a really hard question, actually. I just think like it took a lot of behind the scenes, everybody kind of working together to figure out the best system for it, if that makes sense. And it's mostly based on the incentive. And a lot of it had to do with just like our involvement in the barrel incentives and figuring out how the best way to pay that money out was like, and a lot of the incentives just add it right to the pot, right? So we just decided we would outsource sponsors for the pot and keep those payouts separate for only the horses that were eligible. So there wasn't horses winning that weren't paid into the stuff, if that makes sense. And I would say that really what separates us is the incentives and our focus on making it about the horses, the horse people, the programs. Because again, my belief is we're just creating new school horse shows. We're not putting ropings on. These are just new school horse shows. And there's so much attention behind it and money behind it right now. It's great for the industry, period. But I think that's really the only thing that separates us, is that we just pay the money out really good. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's great. I think, like I said, I think the involvement with the breeders and studs and things like that is putting another element to the fraternities. And creating people looking for those horses, going to those breeders.
Well, and we can't do it without them. When it's all said and done, I mean, Riata Buckle's whole payout is stallion incentive money. Ours is stallion and breeders plus our outsourced sponsorship money. Jay's is all sponsor money. But there's a lot of us working really hard right now. And we understand none of us have a job if we don't have the stallion owners and the breeders, period.
Because these are a lot of the questions that I have. Because like I said, I'm just a small town guy. I enjoy the fraternities because I love what it does for my horsemanship.
Yes, sir.
I love being around the guys. I love the industry. It makes me a better horseman. It makes me a better teacher. And so these are a lot of the questions, which is fun for me, is because I think a lot of the questions I have, a lot of the same questions a lot of other people, is they're trying to get to know what is going on, what all the different fraternities are, and how they, whether they're a fan of it, whether they're looking to get into it, or whether they're, a young trainer trying to make his name out there and trying to get involved with it. And so I think that's trying to get the questions to where it answers a lot of those that are interested in it.
And I think so, the easiest way to answer that is like, if you really take a step back, look at it, or go to an event, there is actually a place for everyone at the fraternities. It's really cool. And for somebody, like you're saying, people that are interested looking into it, I think that's the number one thing that needs to be put out there. Like, this isn't just for the elite. It's not for the pros. It's not for, whatever. It's for, I'm a 6 and I can compete at them. And that's all I got. It's more about your horsemanship than your roping. If you know how to catch, but like it also is elevating so many people in their horsemanship and roping. Totally agree. When your horsemanship elevates, your roping elevates like that immediately. Yeah. And that's something that a lot of people kind of overlook, is the horsemanship side of roping is pretty important. And when you get better at riding your horse, your roping gets 1.5 million times better. So it's kind of interesting. I've said this to Denny Gentry before, like this fraternity thing has the potential to grow the top end of team roping like nobody's ever seen before. Like, the people that had the work ethic to just put it in, grind to get to be a 9 or 10. Now we have these programs that is a foundation to build your horsemanship up and your roping all at the same time. It's nuts. We didn't have that. Like, I didn't have that when I was growing up.
No. And this is helping the clinics. Like, yes, when I do clinics, I tell them, I said, look, you got to follow the Andy Holcombs. You got to follow Trevor and Miles on Instagram and social media and, Relentless Remuda, and watch, anything that Brock Hansen has that he follows on social media. Watch all these guys. When do they bring their first swing up? When do they, how do they get their rope going before they get to their spot? Where are they rating at? What's the angle of their swing? when they rope and put it on the horn, what is their left hand on their feet doing? How are they framing across the pin? And watch how they're facing those horses. That would win a 13 roping down.
Oh,
So this is such a great blueprint for young ropers and beginner ropers to have a blueprint on watching the best guys in the world now roping from the same spot that they are. We've never had that before.
well, and even like, I mean, it's so cool. Like the atmosphere at the fraternities is like, it's like being at a backyard baseball game
Oh, I love it.
with Kirby Puckett. You know what I'm saying?
They're
Like,
the best guys in the world. They're artists, and like Tret. I talked to, I think was it Tay Kirkenslager, and they're like, well, we all help each other. So that's why we're so close. Is we all help each other out. He might help for Joe, and Joe might help for Miles, and everyone's helping each other. So they're kind of all in it together. There's a brotherhood that you don't see in team roping culture very often, and it's a tight knit group. And I enjoy the culture of it for sure.
the culture of it's cool, but then what I think is the coolest about it is like those guys, Trevor, Miles, like they're just normal people at those, and any person that is wanting to get into it, they want to see it grow as well. They are there to give advice. If you ask them a question, they're going to help you. Like I see it constantly. It isn't like, if you were at a jackpot, I just remember when I lived in Stephenville, go up to somebody and be like, what'd I do wrong there? I don't know. I mean, it's not like that. Like, because everybody involved in the fraternity thing wants to see it grow. So they want to see the 5 get better. They want to see the 6 get better. They want to see them maybe buy a horse, send them to them, be able to rope in the limiteds and amateurs and non-pros too.
Yeah.
So it's such a selfless industry, and it's super interesting, like to see it all play out like that. And that's why I feel like the atmosphere of the events themselves are so much fun, because it's almost like going to a pro-am roping. As an amateur, like you can have any professional help you, and they're gonna help you because they want to see it grow.
Yeah. Everybody's invested.
Yeah, it's neat.
So I know you got an event coming up. So this is kind of your busy time of year right now. So what's the events coming up right now that you have coming up here to South Dakota?
I actually have Platinum Medal, and that starts Tuesday. As it's today's Saturday, so Tuesday from now. I went to Royal Crown just to kind of watch, check everything out, come back Wednesday, and now I'm setting up for Platinum Medal.
What all are the events you're going to have, and how can anyone watch it? Is it televised?
It is. It's on roping.com. It's free to the public as well. We take care of that just so the public can watch it. And we have tie down roping, breakaway, and team roping, heading, heeled, and the biggest classes we have this year are limited heading and heeling, believe it or not. So
awesome.
I feel like that really shows that there are your everyday ropers really
Absolutely.
wanting to get into this. So I'm seeing more interest in the actual fraternity side of it than the numbered side, if that makes sense, which is super weird because everyone's comfortable with the numbered thing, but I think everybody's seeing the money, seeing how it works, getting interested in it.
That's awesome.
It's pretty cool.
Because like I said, that what that's going to do, in my opinion, for the guys coming up, whether you're a beginner roper or whether you're a beginner trainer coming up, watching that blueprint and what these guys are setting out there is, to me, going to elevate so much more because there's so much technology out there. I always tell all these guys, follow them on social media, because what the reels look like nowadays is like nothing we've ever seen. If there was a fraternity going on when I was getting started, they weren't televised. And they dang sure wasn't on these high-def cameras where they're slow-mowing some of the main parts of the run where you can really see how good the head loop went on, what the left hand looks like as they're pulling their slack,
how
they're setting that
out
sucker.
of there.
Oh, yeah, putting the jelly on the biscuit and then just right leg, setting that frame up and finish.
Watching those heel horses just dirty.
Yeah.
And then
the
all
one
that
Joseph
dirt
the other day, and the pictures of it almost looks like a little bit like the reining when they come in and slide, the dirt's coming up around. Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, that's
and watching them the saddle horn come up when they're stopping, and how easy it is to dally. It's like sipping tea in England, and so like watching those things. I mean, that's the blueprint for so many guys learning how to either whether the training's coming or whether you're trying to learn to develop your run and roping for money.
I'm so thankful for the romanticize of the rope horse. Like, you have no idea, because I've always thought that the way a rope horse moves is one of the most beautiful things in the world. And the fact that now there are people paying attention to that and publicizing it and people are seeing it, I think people are starting to agree with that. And back in the day, we were just kind of the dipshits of the Western industry when it was all said and done. Like, we were just the guys that, and I'm saying this in a generalization of team ropers of what the stereotype was, We didn't take care of our horses. We didn't brush them. We didn't do this. We didn't water them. We didn't feed them. Like, good luck going to a jackpot and not seeing a slicked off horse nowadays. Like, the pride and the ownership has just gone through the roof. But people are like, want to see their horses work good. They like seeing the reels. And like I said, just the romanticizing of that has just gotten amazing. And I'm thankful for it because I think rope horses move beautiful. And I love watching. Like, I was sat up there at Royal Crown by myself in the bleachers, watch all day long because even the lowest end of that deal, it's still fun to watch.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Like I said, when I was there the other day at Fort Worth, I hadn't been to one in Futurity in I think about a year and a half. And just in that time frame, watching how much those guys have gotten so much better.
And just like themselves and then the horses themselves too. And like,
that's what I mean. Like how they've gotten to where they've watched and critiqued. Like you talked earlier, you're getting judged on this. So you're learning all the different ways to where now that's, the judging is what's giving people ideas on how their training and mechanism go. And it goes back to like, you do clinics for a living and like, you have to break everything down as for a roper, right? And so now people can actually, and Next Gen does this where you can actually go look at your scores and your video. So you can literally see why you were judged that way, if that makes sense. Yeah.
And I think
that's great because that's where you can critique yourself.
Absolutely. And
that's the technology we have nowadays. It wasn't there before.
Yes, sir. And the coolest thing too is I'm seeing more people like my level roper, like asking the guys like, okay, what did I do in that run? Like, why did I get knocked 2 points here? Where like, why was that horse 5 points higher than me? And they'll go ask, Trevor Miles, and they'll be like, well, like maybe you didn't get him out of there enough. Like, and people are so open to that as opposed to just like, oh no, I didn't do that. Like, no, it's like they want to get better, not just, oh no, I know it all. It's very interesting.
It is. It's very humble.
Yes.
It feels like, like I said, the team rope, and it seemed like in such a long time, they were almost hoarding the information because they had the edge, so they're not going to let it out. And it just doesn't feel that way. And I just figured it was because I'm not a threat. I come to the fraternities and I enjoy it. It's like my clinic. I get there and I get better. And so I just kind of felt like, they're going to tell me all the freaking answers I want to hear because like, I'm not taking anything away from them. I could show up with one horse and most of these guys are my buddies anyway. Right. And so it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch how it's elevating. I'm enjoying what it's watching to where those horses have such just a good horse coming out of there. Oh my gosh, that good horse, just a good horse. Look at the opportunities of the places he can go from the 13 down to probably an 8, That's where a good horse is going to go. Well, now a great horse, that you might be watching that sucker at the NFR.
Right.
So all those opportunities for them horses to go in the team rope, and it's fun to watch. And I'm excited to see where the barrels or where the breakaway goes from here on out. Because like I said, if the top level of the PRCA doesn't step up and figure out a way. Now, Kimes Ranch is doing a hell of a job.
Oh my God!
But in my opinion,
I would like to give Kimes Ranch a big shout out from Platinum Medal too, because they gave us all of our jackets for our short round qualifiers, and they're
doing a lot for the industry.
Oh, they've been such a huge supporter of especially the breakaway, and well, really, they're getting really into a lot of the timed events, and I'm very, very thankful for that.
Well, it's very smart to get on the breakaway because, like I said, women do spend the money,
yes,
so
sir.
I think it's a great investment. But also, too, is like if you look at the top girls. And if the Kimes Ranch continues to add $1 million in the breakaway, only 10 girls rodeoing for a living get qualified to the Kimes Ranch finals.
Oh, that's it.
15 girls have a chance to qualify outside the top 10. So that's where the money's at.
Right.
If you have a chance right there to futurity and go to the good stuff and get qualified for the jackpots, and there's actually more opportunity to make it to the Kimes Ranch finals jackpotting than there is rodeoing full time. What are the chances a lot of girls going fraternities and then trying to qualify now through the Kimes Ranch? Because that's where the money's at. Because the money ain't in the NFR.
No, sir. And
you're paying your credit card. That's a bonus. But
well, even just rodeos in it, and you rodeoed for a living. You did it forever. And how many people you're seeing on the professional team roper side call it, and they're like, "We're gonna go fraternities now."
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I've been saying that. Say any names. Yep. I'm not going to say any names, but
no, Ren Richard. I mean, he's an amazing trainer,
one of the best,
and is an amazing roper.
Great guy.
So I mean,
great guy
it mixes. Yeah, and what him and his dad are trying to help do for the industry. Yes, exactly. It's a great outlet for a lot of these guys. That it's a hard way to raise a family out there on the road.
Yes, sir. Yep.
So
And
to
there's-
have another opportunity, another skill set to be able to do something that, fits for a lot of people's passion, they can rope good and they can ride good. It's going to
Well,
help the industry a lot.
And even what Shane and Haven are doing with the tie down, that's not a big pool of horses to pull out of. We're going to have to, work pretty hard, all of us, to build that. And I'm very happy that they're taking the time out of their schedule to kind of help build that, if that makes sense, because that's not the money maker, if that makes sense. We're all in it for the horses, and we want to see the horse side of this just grow. And the best way I can explain it is there was already a house built, team roping, cap roping, breakaway. The house is there, the jackpots, the rodeos, everything. All we're trying to do is slip a foundation under the house, so it's as strong as it can possibly be. And something that you kind of touched on, what you're saying earlier, but the competitor side's awesome. But as far as a consumer goes, if I can go to a Futurity or watch a full season's worth of Futurities, look up results and make a very educated guess on what I am buying, it also helps the consumer in the long run. So it really does set a foundation for where these horses go after they're aged out of the Futurities. Do they go to World Series? They go to rodeos? They go to breakaway jackpots? They go to tie-down jackpots?
So in your opinion, what does the horse value and the horse market look like? Is it still high?
It's pretty dang high. Seems like, and this is funny because we're in the barrel and the rope horse industry, right? I would personally say that I believe that the rope horse industry is stronger than the barrel industry right now.
Awesome.
And it's unbelievable.
Yeah, that is unbelievable, especially right now with our economy.
Yes, sir. But it's, you got to look at it like this is, going rate for a rope horse prospect 10 years ago was 6,500.
What's it now?
20 for one that might go to the Futurities and then go from there on the low end.
I would say the low end. For sure. Yep.
Like me and Dakota Kirkenslager at the house right now, we were just walking through the horse and you're like, what's this one? What's that one? And I'm just like, it's so hard because there's just so much money to be won in the rope horse Futurity, more than the barrel Futurities at this point. It's unbelievable. And when the money's there to be won.
Speaking of,
nice there's Duck right there.
Slugger.
Yeah.
Man, he's done a good job on the training. He's done a good job with them horses.
He is also, me and you were talking about this when we were walking up here today. He has a beginner's mindset with everything. He wants to learn. He's never a know-it-all.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he's excelling.
The horse, leaving a horseman, it's a never-ending book. It's almost like the Bible. It's only so thick, but it never ends.
Yep.
It's wild how it works. So you talked about the one going on this week. What are the rest of the Futurities for the rest of the year?
So we have the Gold Buckle Futurity in Abilene. That's our Futurity, I guess.
When is that?
That is I think it starts November 14th through the 18th or 19th, I believe. And that's going to be kind of that's our finals, technically, our flagship.
So how do you qualify for that finals?
So since Platinum Medal isn't technically a Gold Buckle event, we are playing breeders' money out there, but you just had to enter Ardmore, if that makes sense.
Okay.
And then we paid first place in every class got paid into Abilene from us.
So will that be something you can follow as well? Is there ways? Is it can be on open.com?
We haven't. I don't know if we got a live stream on that for sure set yet. Once we do, I'll let you know. But that's going to be. I would kind of push on the come watch that one because that's going to be the best of the best, if that makes sense.
That'll be really good.
Yes, sir.
So what about the websites, Facebook? How do you follow it? How do we get to where if we're wanting to enter a Gold Buckle, Platinum? What are the ways to how to follow it, and how do we get entered?
So Gold Buckle, we have Chad Laxton, who's like the greatest media person in the world. He keeps our Facebook super up to date. Website is www.goldbucklefuturties.com. And that's got all of our eligible stallions, eligible breeders, and event information on it, including bylaws, rules, judges' scorecards, everything. Platinum has www.platinummedalfuturity.com. And we have a Facebook as well.
What's your Facebook?
Platinum Medal Futurity. Okay. Yep. I think it's Platinum Medal Rope Horse Futurity.
Okay.
And then that's the one that takes place in 2 days from now. So we're already entries closed and ready to roll with that one. But
awesome.
And that's kind of cool. We were talking about growth earlier. We saw 250% growth on our entries this year and moved it to South Dakota. It was in Guthrie, Oklahoma last year.
Which is a little bit more central there.
Yes, sir. And still
this is a little bit more outside the central.
Very much so. and it was a little bit of a risk, and I was a little worried about it. But my belief is like there's a lot of people in other places that want to do this, and they don't necessarily want to go travel all over the place. So kind of wanted to help try to grow it regionally, and maybe took a little bit of a risk and it paid off. But I think percentage wise, I think I'm looking at like 40% never entered a futurity entries in my event, which is unbelievable.
It's really good.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, man, thanks for the chat. This was fun. I learned a lot.
Absolutely.
I've always enjoyed the Frenchman guy breeding, and it's good to get, like I said, the Gold Buckle is kind of new. Where you're at with the Platinum and seeing everything kind of merge together right there is interesting. And I think for a lot of the listeners too is knowing, what they're judging on, how they can follow it, what they're looking for. And then also I think the breakaway is going to be I'm a little partial, obviously.
Me and you have talked about the breakaway growth, and I've talked about with B-Bray so much, and like the horse quality. How about that in the last 3 years? How about that? And that right there just shows you that that's going to grow on the futurity side, plus the numbers. Like, I mean, if we're just talking sheer numbers, like the fact that I got 43 breakaway ropers in Rapid City, South Dakota, I'm kind of blown away by that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it just kind of like, I was just talking to D out there, like, how's all this work? Everybody's trying to figure out how it works, how the judging works. And really what it comes down to is you get paid to make practice runs. If you go make 3 practice runs on your horse, set them up, make them look good, do your thing, you're going to probably win a check. And I think that's the coolest part about it is you don't blow your horse up. You don't have to go home and fix it. You're making just regular old arena practice runs. You come out with a better horse in the long run, and you get to win money. It's a win-win.
I agree.
Yep.
Well, man, I appreciate what you guys are doing in the industry. I'm excited to follow it. And, man, thanks for coming on here. And like I said, this was way better in person than it was on social, or, getting on a Zoom call.
I know. I wish people could see my facial expressions when you were saying things, and I was just like agreeing facially. I was like, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. And I'm just sitting over here going all crazy. Yeah. And if people could see my facial expressions, I think they'd feel a little ridiculous about
it. Funny. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time to come on here and explain it. And I wish you guys the best of luck.
Thank you, Charlie. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It was fun.
I appreciate it.
Yes,
Thanks,
sir.
buddy.
Thank
All
you.
Right, talk to everybody later.
Yes, sir. Bye.